Hello everyone, welcome to An Abundance of Books. My name is Julia and today we're doing stats. I'm a nerd, so looking at stats is some of my favorite things, and I'm working on ways to sort of incorporate these stats in other things throughout the year, but generally this is just an overview of how my 2022 went. And of course, no stats video would be complete without first going over our Goodreads year in review. I want to be over here, but I don't want to block the cat. I guess, no, then he'll be blocked more. You're making this so difficult. First up, standard things. I read 107 books and 34,008 pages. Last year I read 125 books, and the year before that I read 102. So I'm always kind of somewhere in that range. Getting over 100 was the only thing that was really important to me. I also had a couple of bum months where I read hardly anything, and generally I think my reading is slowing a bit. I'm not reading double-digit books in a month like I maybe used to. Still a lot, obviously, but 107, perfectly happy with. Shortest book, Kissing the Coronavirus, a 5-star read. Longest book, Final Empire, also a 5-star read. And actually I read Kissing the Coronavirus in January and the Final Empire in December. So a nice bookend. Average length of book, 317. I think that feels right. I don't generally read short books as a rule, like I know some people do, but I also don't read long books, so I would have kind of expected that to be a little bit more. Most popular, Six of Crows, no surprise there. It is beloved, there's fandom, there's a TV show, makes sense. And least shelved is People Change by Vivek Shraya, which is interesting. Like, it's a non-fiction memoir by a Canadian, and I think it's a 2022 release. It is a great book. I think I gave it 4 stars, so I would recommend. And my average rating is a 3.6, which is fine. I'm not precious with my 5 stars, so I kind of feel like that should be higher. I guess nothing on Goodreads cracks a 4, so it makes sense. Highest rated is of course one of the Heartstoppers. They're always crushing it. And then we'll just do a quick scroll through of all of the books that I read. If you're curious, here they all are. Some good stuff in here. But now I can go into the stats that I really care about. These are ones that I just track myself. They won't all be interesting to you, but here we go. Let's start off with pages per month. As you can see, March was my worst month. I know I only read 4 things there, but generally I'm sticking around that 2,500 mark. So that's probably 7 to 8 books every month. Definitely slowed down in the second half of the year, but I think became more consistent. I've also got a matching books per month. As you can see, 8 is generally where I am at the end of the year, but at the beginning I was trying to do double digits, and yeah, that just doesn't work for me. Let's do the types of books that I read. This year, audiobooks ruled a whole. I definitely became a lot more invested in them, and generally I like to listen to audiobooks when I play video games and stuff. If I get really embroiled in a video game, then I'm likely to read a lot of audiobooks while doing that. A good amount of physical books that I read, which I'm proud of because there's a whole lot of them back there, but my Kindle really suffered, which is unfortunate because I really enjoy reading on my Kindle and I should do it more. I've also got a graph for where the books came from. 59% came from the library. That's pretty typical for me. I read a lot of library books, and generally my rule is read something from the library if you can, and if you like it, then buy yourself a copy. But 35% were owned by me originally, which is a good number. 38 is not nearly enough for how many I have on my TBR, but we'll take it. And then that 6th slice is ARCs, things that I got from NetGalley. Then for age range, 82% of my reading is adult. I think that makes sense. I think 80 is around where I want to be. I'm definitely interested in YA, but not as a genre. More when I hear about a good YA, I want to read it. So 18 YA books, and then a tiny sliver that doesn't even deserve a number, 1 middle grade, which I should fix. Even just to have some middle grade on hand for a palate cleanser, I should up that next year. Let's talk about publication year. 40% of my reading was 2022 releases, which is very good for me, and then 34% were backlist, which I think makes sense. I track until 2020. Those are all of the current things that are on my radar that I maybe heard about when they came out. So anything older than that, I just stick under one thing. And then one arc that I read that comes out in 2023. Let's do genre, because that's always an interesting one. My highest piece of the pie is thriller. I do combine mystery, horror, thriller all under that, so I might have to change that in the future. I have to change the whole way I do genre because everything is like multiple genres and confusing. Anyway, romance is my next highest, 22 of those that I read. Science fiction is actually a lot lower than it usually is. I only read 8 this year, so that's going to be a goal for 2023. Oh wait, horror is separated out. Okay, then never mind. Here's another view of it with all of the numbers because I know a bunch of these get cut off. I've started also including a contemporary genre, which I don't know if I love because a lot of it just goes under general fiction, but I read a little bit of everything. That's all you need to know. Now for star rating, 24% were 5-star reads, which is very good, but also not all 5 stars are created equally for me. If there's nonfiction or like a graphic novel, something that I don't have very critical thoughts of, I'll just throw it a 5-star. So not all 26 of those books were like all-time favorites for me, but still really good. And then 34% 4 stars. That's great. Having over half of that chart be 4 and 5-star reads makes me feel really good. And then 3 1-star reads and everything else in there. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think is a good distribution, a pretty typical distribution for a reading year for pretty much anyone. Author status is something that I started tracking this year. This is just a new to me author, an old to me author, or a debut. And as you can see, 49.5% were new to me authors, which I think is pretty typical for me. I'm very much someone who gets swept up in the hype, and there are a handful of authors that I'll read whatever their new release is. Maybe they didn't come out with one in 2022. Maybe I'm still building that list. 13% debuts too. I think that I like that. It's hard to know if I should have a goal with debut, if that should be a higher number or a lower number, but no, I'm happy with this chart. And then the last category that I have is diversity based. I track author diversity, BIPOC authors and LGBTQ+ authors, as well as character representation. I don't go into these too much. I'm not spending a ton of time trying to figure out. Just generally, if I can easily find the information and assume someone wants to be identified that way, I mark them as such. So as we can see here, 23% BIPOC authors, 8% LGBT+ authors, and then 5% are both, which leaves the huge portion there, 63% are non-BIPOC, non-LGBT, at least as far as I could tell. Of course, we want that number to be better, but 80% of publishing is white, so having anything more than that I think is good. Of course, it's something that I strive for, and generally I like to just be more picky. If I know that it's a diverse author, I will give it a more fair chance than I will if it's not. But then I also track characters. This is something that I started doing. My actual chart is more than this because I basically track whether it's a major, like if your main character is BIPOC or LGBT, then I will use something, or if there's a side character or some major conversation, there's ways that I track this. But anyway, 20% had at least one LGBT character, 33% had at least one BIPOC character, and then 48% had none. That still seems so high. And I definitely notice it when I read something where there should obviously be at least one person of color in this town and there just isn't. That's something I can always find more of or keep my ear to the ground for more. Those are all of the stats that I have to share with you as of right now. I'm working on trying to figure out how to use these numbers in order to pick my 5-star predictions for next year. So that's all in the works. It probably won't be for a while though. If there's anything that I didn't answer, any questions that you have, leave them below and I'll do my best to find the answer for you. Also, if there's anything that you think that I should track for 2023, please let me know. Easier to start it now than in November or something. Thank you so much for joining me and I will see you very soon.